So just out of curiosity, I'm just kind of curious here. We got 368, 8 bodies on Teams. It's an informal poll, right? I know I badmouth Teams pretty good, but 8 on Teams, and how many in the general chat, in the general video chat, or the video? Sorry, voice chat. That's what I mean. 6. Anyway, the majority, 30 plus, 30-ish. And then let me see, that's the channel. Okay, so yeah, thanks for yeah. So Dave and Elliot, let me see. Elliot, how do we join class for today? You just jump on the. You can either jump on the voice chat on Discord, on the Discord server, um, or you can jump on Teams, where I just uh, did the synchronized thing, which should give everybody access to that. So first of all, kind of sanity checking. Do we have any? Is there any Teams problem? So Matthew, let me see. I got. Now I'm going to try to track both conversations. um, I really do dislike the interface on Teams. Hold on, real quick. Let me just get the address for that video. I think my machine's being really slow. Maybe because I'm trying to do too much. Wow, 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 wow. We're really doggy here. I should have rebooted my machine before I tried all this. Okay. All right. All right. Coming over to on Discord. Here's there's the YouTube address for the video. And then Teams friends. I'm going to kick it over to you as well. Okay, let me see. Am I still muted? So I'm backing up. Gabe, am I still muted on Teams? Am I showing off muted? Yeah, I'm still muted. Hang on. I swear, I feel like it's like the 90s or something, and I'm running on an old Windows 2000, I don't know, whatever. Come on. Okay, now I can hear myself. Why am I hearing myself? Somebody must be running the YouTube video sort of out loud and then coming back with the delay. Okay, I should be unmuted on Teams. Yes? Sorry about that. I'm just now, one of the things that I really dislike about Teams compared to Discord is Teams doesn't really integrate the video and the chat, and you wind up needing to have the chat kind of, you know what I mean? It gets hidden, and it's just clunky to sort of see. So I just barely saw um, Gabe's comment about me being muted. Alrighty. Let me see. And then Matthew, by the way, since we're streaming to YouTube, let me just say, okay, first of all, sound check. Teams, everybody can hear me, and Discord, everybody can hear me, right? Alrighty. And then just make sure, just double check hot mics. I think someone's got a mic on while listening to a mic on one of the chats while listening to the YouTube video, because I'll just hear snippets of myself on about a 10-second delay, which is about what YouTube gives when you do a stream like that for whatever reason. Okay. Alrighty. Yeah, Matthew. So I'm audio on both now. All right. So first order of business when we're going live and we're streaming class. I'm not streaming any information about students. This is a FERPA notice. Um, with Discord with Teams, your name is there, and what I will do if I need to sort of refer to you is basically just kind of first names only, and that's kind of the privacy mechanism. And if you're over on Discord, you can actually set up an alias name of anything you want, and I can refer to you by that nickname over there. So that also creates a little bit more privacy. Um, and then if the thing is set up, the student voices should pop out on the YouTube stream, but I'm not sure that I have the audio set up properly for that. So no guarantees on that part working. But that's kind of the first part. Second bit of business. Wait, hang on just a second. And also, if you want to drop any comments on the stream while we're going in either the Teams chat or the Discord chat, just drop comments. I'll try to keep an eye on both and respond as we go. And so, Matthew, did you figure out the voice channel on Discord? That's great. Yeah, that's fine. Either way. And, all you have to do is click on that general button. And when you click it, you're in under the voice channels. It's not really a button. It's a label. Okay, just double checking. Thank you again. Heads up on my muting. All right. Okay. I think we're good there, and we're good with Discord stuff. First item, I have updated the blog roll on the Canvas website. So everybody's blog, I think there were 2 students that did not submit blogs. You should know, if you're here, you should know who you are, and just go look. In fact, I can kind of my best guess is more than likely the offending individuals are not going to be here, right? But double check. There was one other. Let me see, Steve. Just double check your blog thing. The link was busted, and so I put a note in Canvas. Okay. So, yep, double check that, and just for some reason it's like it defaults to like a startup screen, or you can figure it out, but double check that. Let me see, and everybody else was good, and I updated the blog roll. That's going to be an issue whenever you want to just read other people's blog posts. You can just go there, and later on when we get into the class, we're going to start doing comments on people's blog posts, and that's where you're going to go. Okay, you're going to go to the blog roll to just go, grab somebody's blog and go check it out. There are no names identifying anybody's blog unless you chose to put your name first. I don't think anybody put a first and last name, but there were some that either used a first or a last or some clever play on that. If you don't want others in the class, to see your name, then all you have to do is just change the name of the blog and let me know. Okay. But there's no identifying information on any of the blog stuff, other than whatever you want to put on it. For some of you, I talked briefly about this the first day. For some of you, there's a value in having a professional presence, that you want to post to or put on your LinkedIn or whatever. Then, of course, you're also putting yourself out there. So, I think that ought to make you think a couple times about what you write, you know, just in terms of professional, personal, you know what I mean? Because you're putting yourself out there publicly if you attach your name to it. If you don't, really kind of no blood, no foul. Nobody knows who you are anyway. And nobody's going to get to your stuff because it's security by obscurity. Okay, one other bit of business. Hang on. Um, so attendance. I did go through and enter all the attendance stuff uh, for last week. I'll try to just do that every weekend. Be caught up by every weekend. With everybody just dropping like flies from COVID, um, it's important, really, a couple things. If you were there, like there are some of you that I see here now that haven't been anywhere on my roll. And for the first week, while we're kind of figuring things out, ordinarily, you need to have an excused absence. But, there needs to be a reason. You ought to be participating. If there's a good reason, why not? Just things that are unpredictable or, that are difficult. I'm really easy that way, as long as it's not like, an everyday thing. And there are some, there occasionally you get somebody where there's a solid conflict where they're going to be missing a lot, and we know about it, we talk about it, and we make arrangements, but you got to talk to me about it. It's not just sort of alternate delivery, do whatever you want. And the reason is because if everybody just kind of bails out, the participation, if you're watching, it's less participation than when you're actually there in real time. You know what I mean? When it's more engaged. I hope that makes sense. Let me see. Yeah. So Micah, speaking of attendance, what I want to do, I'm going to do a thing here. I don't know how many. Let me just see real quick how many people are by chance tracking on YouTube right now. Sorry, delays, just slow latency. Yeah, so basically nobody's really, I think I'm the only concurrent viewer on YouTube. All right. Yeah, so, yeah, thanks, John, for that kind of clarification quote from my attendance memo. Okay, here's what I want to do. I think, all right, there are a couple ways of doing this. One, sorry, we're fake it till we make it right now. Okay, we're just trying to figure this out. What I may want to do. What if I do this? What if I do this? If I actually I was thinking about this because it was a pain in the butt to have to go through the role. And I was thinking about what if I just actually, it's a little old school, but what if I actually just read the role? But again, I'm going to only use first names because it's still streaming. I don't know if that works. The alternative is I do a screenshot of everybody on Teams because I've got all your names, right? Which are now 7. And for Discord, I can have everybody, I can actually make like an attendance text channel where you can just drop your name. Should I do that? Hold on. I am so sorry. My latency is so bad right now. Okay. I just created a text channel on Discord, and then again for Teams. The problem with Discord is it can be nicknames. I can't necessarily directly see everybody's name. Sorry, everything is so slow. This is horrible. Okay, yeah, thank you. Just yeah, so everybody on Discord, drop your name in the attendance for today. And for the teams, folks, I think there's just 7 of you, and I am just going to do a screenshot, which will give me all of your names. So I'm in the latency. It's like 5 seconds for this screenshot. That's insane. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. All right. So I got everybody on Teams. Thanks. So everybody clear? Everybody's good to go. Then I can roll through and do the roll based on those 2 things. I do have an automated Discord thing, but I've got to set some stuff up, and I didn't do it yet. Okay. Also, for those of you that were able to add the class, I asked them to bump the seats up, so that's how that opened up for everybody. Who was I think there were like 8 people on the waiting list, 5 or 8 or something like that. All right. Is there any other housekeeping? Is there anything else like stupid that I'm forgetting that we really need to make sure we're dealing with? And again, for wherever you are, it's you can drop stuff on the chats, or you can just interrupt and go voice, and I'm really okay either way. Um, all right. Um, all right, everyone. So Dave, you're good on managing how to get rid of the people list. You're good with that. Thanks for everybody for jumping in to chip in and help on that. Help each other out. Appreciate that. Okay. So what I would like just to remind everybody to do is go look on Canvas and you need to check like every week on your own attendance, just to make sure that there's I've got a lot of people in 2 sections, and it's an easy thing to kind of screw up. I'm not trying to be careful, but I can screw up. And so if you're just double checking it, and then the very, very best way is to DM me in Discord if you can. You can email me, you can message me on Canvas. My email is a big frickin' compost pile of decaying digits and bits, and it's just bad. So everything's a mess, and DMing me on Discord is probably about the cleanest way, And I never really check messages on Teams. unless I get an email notification and I happen to see it in my compost pile. So, okay. So what I'm going to do, so double check your last week. Just make sure that you're clean from last week, because there were, on the 11th, there were 4 people that I've not heard from at all who weren't there, didn't, or at least didn't sign the roll, and I haven't heard from at all. Okay, and that's Brant, Micah, Vadim, Jacob. Ignoring last names in case there are, collisions in the hash table. And then there are a few that were absent: Brendan, John, Michael, that were going to let me know when there was an excused absence. And that was just the first day. That's an excused absence where you're going to let me know that you watched it, that you watched the video. And then similarly, on the Thursday, Jacob, Vadim, Micah, Sean, Brant, Jacob, no, you not on the roll, and I didn't hear from you, which turns into an inexcused 0, which costs you like 3% of the course grade. So you got to be communicating. And then there was one other one, which was Jesse on and who Ian with an excuse thing, but you got to let me know that you've watched the video. So DM me, okay? DM me on Discord is the cleanest way to get through to me. Okay. All right. Let's talk about writing, shall we? Let's. Hang on. By the way, I just wanted to know any feelings, experiences, brain jarring, anything impacting anybody from our discussion about the orders of ignorance. Anybody just have anything that affected you, or that maybe changed the way you saw the world, or influenced an experience you had on the weekend, or anything of that sort? Once again, chat or video or audio, just fine, whichever you prefer. Right. Nice. Brendan claims to be living most of his life in the third order of ignorance. Excellent confession. We all are actually about most things. You know what I mean? We really don't know that there's even a thing, let alone what the framework might be that would maybe generate questions. We live really, we're in ignorance about almost everything. That's just, kind of the way it goes. Hunter said, made you feel more confident when you didn't know everything. Yeah, right. I mean, that's to recognize that the ignorance is the frontier of knowledge, frontier of learning. Yeah, Sam felt less like an idiot for not knowing something, right? I think that's really, really significant. Um, Frozen Havoc weirdly made me more excited for programming. That learning is just part of it, so I'm not stupid. It's just part of the job. Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Dave posted a website that lets you guess between real science articles and AI written ones. Nice. I can do slightly better than just guessing, suggesting I don't know a whole lot about most fields. Yeah, exactly. CR loves the statement, all knowledge and learning occurs on the frontier of ignorance. Right on, man. Um, so Andrew Val said, I heard a story where a person who worked at McDonald's was told by their manager that they didn't pay the person to think. I actually said that, if you remember. Well, what I said was, there's nothing you're going to do by thinking that's going to make that fry any better, I think is probably what I said, right? So the person decided they meant that they had to be told to do everything. And that reminded me of the zeroth order of ignorance. Right. It is, in fact, really insulting. Even at McDonald's, the reality is that even as a first order ignorance, there's still levels of debugging. What do I do if this alarm goes off? What do I do if, you know what I mean? There are questions and frameworks that you're also given, but actually telling somebody, I'm not paying you to think, is really, really insulting. Because even if you're doing, manual labor, and you're whatever, the archetypal manual labor, you're digging a ditch, you can dig a ditch well and you can dig a ditch badly, and you're going to dig a ditch better by thinking, right? So I was obviously going for a little bit of hyperbole when I said, there's nothing you can do by thinking to make a better fry, trying to make a point that you're operating at a zeroth order ignorance once they train you how to make a fry. But there's usually a little bit of a dynamic that, in fact, you can make a slightly better fry. And the reality is that in most worlds where the assumption is that, we're not paying you to think, the reality is that thinking a little bit is going to actually help a bit. So, good thoughts, good comments. I really appreciate that. For me, I bumped into this 15 years ago, and for me, it was kind of life changing. It just because it created all this stuff I've been sharing with you is really just my condensation of 15 years of noodling on this whole idea, and I found that it changed. It caused me to just, I don't know, be a little more bold and to just ask more questions. Not sure, but it really had impact, for me, as did the fish story. Okay, let's pull up. I'm gonna talk a little bit about writing. We're gonna dive into some writing action here, and this is related to the smallish blogs. I'm now back to latency land because I just opened a PowerPoint, and it's now 1998 or something. Remember those days? Okay. I know you don't. You were like in diapers or something. Yeah, using WordPerfect. Exactly. Sorry, I'm just waiting for dumb PowerPoint to open because I think I really need to. Developing in Notepad, Dave. Yes. Matthew barely remembers it. Okay. Come on, man. Come on, PowerPoint. I apologize. I should have rebooted my machine. It was being a little doggy this morning, and I even thought about it earlier, and then, like a dummy, like a dum dum, I didn't fix it. Okay. Alrighty. Oh, hey, I just realized too. Sorry, Teams people, I didn't share my screen. You got my video, but you don't have the screen, the screen. Let me get that. Let me get that for you. You can also jump on. You can jump on YouTube, but hang on a second. If I can share content. So, oh, I'm so sorry for this latency. Anyway, for those of you on Discord and YouTube, you can already see what's coming up there on the slides. I'm just trying to share that with the Teams pals. Um, on Teams, Control Shift E. Well, it brings up that hide. There's a button. Sorry, it brings up like share options. Yeah, yeah. No, it is absolutely, it's Command Shift E, but it's kind of, I get the little spinning circle of confusion, and then it just goes away. And then the problem with Teams is that I just never know if there's some other window just popped up behind everything, or is the usability just suffers. Yeah, yeah, and so and now my option is I can click it again and it says hide share options, but I don't see them right now. Uh, I don't know. We can just kind of suffer through because I'm still going to talk about it. If you want to, if you guys want to, what do we do? What do we do? You can pull up the YouTube just in a separate window. You know what I mean? And kind of sync up to current. You can jump over onto Discord. Um, those are probably the cleanest, and I think the actual slides are available on Canvas. Those are the ways you can pull those up. So I apologize. I'd like to apologize on behalf of Microsoft. Just kidding. I have no accountability for what this product is. No, anyway. Okay, yeah, enough trying, I guess. Apologies for the team's faithful. Okay, so what I want to do is we're actually I'm actually going to teach you writing. We're going to lecture. We're going to do a few I'm calling them writing workshops. It's just kind of, a collective opportunity for us to talk a little bit about writing. You guys, again, apologies, teams now down to, I guess it's still the faithful six. Apologies. There are a couple ways to see it. But yeah. Yeah, the only problem, so Dave asked, can we all just go to Discord? There is a, thank you, Boromir. Um, there is some institutional hostility to Discord, I think, and Teams is the institutional religion. So I'm trying to pay deference, you know what I mean? I'm trying to respect that sort of institutional religion while still having a better usability experience for those who would rather just go over to Discord. Whatever. Okay, so let's talk about the smallish blogs. I mentioned a little of this briefly, but I'm going to hit it again. If you look on Canvas, what you're going to see is we start, I think, for the first 3 assignments on the blog posts, that they are 140 characters, modeled after the original length of a tweet, right? Of a Twitter, uh, a Twitter post. Where the inspiration for that comes from is there was a time before Twitter became a sort of festering cesspool of hate and extremity. Before all that sort of happened, I'm not saying that it's universally a cesspool of hate and extremity. I'm just saying there's a lot of cesspool of hate and extremity on Twitter, and for my taste, there's more of it on Twitter than any other. Tell me if your mileage varies on this, by the way. From my perspective, it's more sort of hostile and just caustic, corrosive, right? Like sipping turpentine sometimes, popping over to Twitter. The level of hostility and people are just, I don't know, kind of crazy. I see a lot less of that on Insta. I see a lot less of that on Facebook. I don't go to TikTok. I see TikTok videos, right, showing up in other places, but I don't actively go to TikTok. What else is kind of out there? It can be, yeah. Uh, they can all be a little toxic, but for my money, Twitter is the most toxic. I don't know why exactly, right? But there was a phase a decade ago where I really liked Twitter. I really enjoyed it. And I felt like it added kind of to my life. I had a certain feed, people that were pointing to really interesting articles, some of it professional, some of it personal, right? Um, and I would post, and I'd post, links to my own blog posts and just interesting things that I would come across to retweet things that I was, there was kind of a, accomplishing what social media is really, kind of meant to do if it was doing good things. Kept people, kept kind of connectivity. You could connect with people, you could share ideas, share thoughts. And it was difficult to have an intelligent argument or discussion on Twitter, which led me to, for the most part, not even really go there. And even Facebook, where you can do, um, okay, Dave, thank you for that one. Uh, I remember before Twitter was toxic. Yeah. Hey, Grandma. Yeah, that's me. It's a variant on OK Boomer. Um, and by the way, I just want to say, as a side note, that it's okay if you say OK Boomer to me. I was the last 3 weeks of the official baby boom, so I am in fact a boomer. Um, yeah, thanks, Hunter. So I don't. It's weirdly cathartic to have that hurled at me. I don't know why. It's my, it's my old man guilt, or whatever. Thanks, Kylo. Um, I don't know why it is, but anyway, it cracks me up. Um, But anyway, let me see. Popping off the stack, popping off from Boomer to Twitter. Yeah, so Twitter, before it was so stinking toxic, uh, I found that my writing changed. That my writing improved when I spent, a duration of time. There were probably, I don't know, maybe a period of 5 years where I would regularly post on Twitter. Just, daily interaction. Maybe every day I'd post or something. Um, and the reason I discovered it was that you were stuck with 140 characters. And when you're stuck with 140 characters, you are necessarily constrained to to be selective about your words, right? You can't, we tend to, this is really, really important. Um, we tend, when we write, because we're not, I don't know, we're not good at it, or we're not great at it, or we're a little clunky, we write, and it's maybe a little bit like we write code when we first start writing code. It's just too wordy. It's too many words. It's too much loose ideas instead of, concise, tight thinking and expression. Well, when you're stuck with 140 characters, as a necessity, you wind up saying, okay, how can I say that one idea? I'm using 5 words to say it now. Is there some more concise way, you know what I mean, to say that thing? And, that becomes the big burning question. And you realize, and I actually, one time, I was going to do a Twitter post, and so I started a video screen. I don't have it like ready, but I have it somewhere. I was just curious, so I just started a screen capture. I have the app I use is called ScreenFlow, so you can actually record your screen. And I don't know if any of you got to pay money for it, so I don't know how many of you have used it, but it's really great software. It's really, really well done. I'm quick to piss and moan about bad software, so I want to be quick when I find it. You know what I mean? To praise really great software like Discord, and like ScreenFlow, which I think is just great software. And so, um, what I noticed was that I would write my idea and it would be like 200 characters. Well, it can only be 140. I got to shut 60. Then I start asking myself questions. There's a natural process. Um, are there ideas that I don't need to express, right? Can I toss certain ideas? Um, Another one is, well, I need that idea, but it's not fitting. So are there better and tighter ways of saying it? Are there more expressive ways of saying it, right? And so one of the things that is kind of classic when you're not a great writer and you're kind of still a novice as a writer, and I know you've all been writing in one form or another since you were kids, but you know what I mean? I'm talking about being a good writer. You know, most of you, many of you are still novices at professional writing, at the kind of writing that's going to be, you know, a really good chat when you're at work one day. You know, it's going to be effective. Communicate what you need without bogging everybody down. And Twitter was a good model for that. So, in other words, Twitter to me taught me a great deal by writing posts on Twitter of how to compress, how to shrink what I'm saying. And when we shrink what we say, usually, not always, but usually it gets more powerful. It gets more punchy in its expression, and usually it conveys the idea a lot tighter. Okay. And so what I and then I stumbled on, there was a Twitter feed, Twitter account called Very Short Story. And it's a good time, you know, today we've got the first blog post due at the end of the week. Some of you, I noticed when I was going through the blog roll and creating the blog roll, I noticed that some of you already had your first posts up, which is rock and roll. And it, by the way, rule for the blog posts, I want to encourage you to constantly evolve, constantly change your writing, and to understand that there's an initial point where you write, and then everything after that is editing. Okay, and editing is a process where you're looking at it, you detect that it sucks in some way, great or small, and then you um, change it, you know, to try to make it suck less. Then later on, you read it again, and it's this iterative process. It's like iterative failure in software design, right? You try a thing, it's going to be a little better than it was, but it still sucks a little. Try another thing, a little better, right? Okay, yeah, thanks, Dave. That's the account. Very short story. Thank you. That's on the Discord chat. And yeah, it's just twitter.com/very short story. I don't know how active it is, but one of those followers is me. And I was just really intrigued by, you know, getting back to this idea of the very short story, where this person was conveying as much as they could in 140 characters and trying to encapsulate oh, sorry, the bulk of an actual short story, you know, beginning, plot development, and, you know, and trying to do that in 140 characters was kind of an inspiration for me. And though that, you know, coupled with trying to write real concisely, uh, left me with this sort of inspiration about the fact that Twitter had helped me improve my writing by making everything tighter. I think we got a hot mic somewhere. Just double check your mic. Um, I think it might be Gitted that's got the hot mic. Thank you, thank you. Um, so what I decided to do when I first started to do writing assignments in this equivalent class that I taught at BYU, uh, what I found was, and this experience continued at UVU, was that on balance, CS undergrads don't show up great writers. You know, it's 140 characters, Frozen. I hope that's what it says in the assignment. If it doesn't, I need if somebody want to double check. I think that's what I said on the assignment because that's what I intended, and it says characters. Okay, yeah, right. That's not much room, right? But when I just cut everybody loose to write paragraphs, for some reason they just sucked. just sucked solid, man. I don't know why they were so bad. But on balance, they really were. There were exceptions that were great, but on balance, they just really sucked. And so, about a year ago or so, I had the inspiration um, to make the first several writing assignments very short stories, so that you had to write in 140 characters. And now, understand too the rubric on the writing assignments. If you have, right, it's a 5 point scale. Five, do you see five? 5 point scale. And if you have one mistake, one typographical mistake, misspelled word, bad punctuation, right? One mistake, you lose 1 point. Now, the trick is you can resubmit later. You can keep working on, you can make your first blog post this week, and after it's been graded, if it's been submitted on time, if it's submitted late, you can't resubmit it. But once it's in, okay, once it's in and has a grade that's non-zero, you can work on that every week until the end of the semester and make it better, right? Because I don't care that you were the greatest writer, on January 22nd or whenever the stuff's due, right? What I care about is that you've become a much better writer than you showed up on, April 27th or whatever, right? I want by the end of the semester that you've had some evolution. Well, the best way to do that is to motivate you to work on it some more, change it, edit it. So if I say typo, 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 -1, otherwise it's great, and you fix the typos, then you can bump that up to a 5, you know? So it's pretty austere as a grading criterion. It is, admittedly. But then it's also accompanied with this sort of mercy of crank it again and, keep working on it, right? Um, right, Dave. Yeah. So Dave said in the real world, you're expected to fix mistakes. It's not one and done. Yes, only school is like one and done, right? And so school gives you this weird training to just go flat, 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 flat. Here, how's this? And you just throw it over the wall and call it good. you know you need to learn to be kind of a relentless editor. So that's sort of, big number one, is just to understand that you can tweak these things. And if you like, for those of you that submitted your very short stories already for this coming, that are due this coming Sunday night, and you want to go and you look back at it and you're like, oh, I just saw something, change it, edit it. That's not cheating in this class. That's just called being a conscientious writer. So you can also throw something out there, and before you submit it, put it up on your blog. Maybe you publish it, maybe you don't, but then you go back and you change it, and you tweak it, you massage it, come back, hit it a couple times while you're fresh, and keep making it better. And that's legal. That's not breaking the rules. Okay. And so in other words, if you make any changes before I see it the first time, that's great. Okay. Um, all right. So we're going to talk a little bit about um, meat versus mayo words. When you're writing, and some of this, I know I'm just sitting on this first slide. I apologize. No, I don't. I'm not even sorry. But when you write, there are words. In fact, I want to just see if I've got a slide about this. So I want to just see if I can. Um, well, let me just hit this. Stephen King did this. He wrote a book called On Writing, which I read. It's funny because it's the only Stephen King book I ever read, and it was his book on writing. And in the book, he issued this sort of challenge as like a writing contest, and had his readers. Sorry. Ah, had his readers send him a writing sample of what he called the Dick and Jane story. And when I read the book, it was too late. The contest was closed by the time I had read the book. But I went ahead and wrote it anyway, just as an extra. Did the exercise right, but couldn't submit it anywhere. But people submitted writing samples based upon this kind of what we sometimes call in writing circles a writing prompt. Okay. And here's what Stephen King said. So, again, ironically, paradoxically, whatever you want to call it, I've never read any other book by Stephen King other than his book on writing. I just figured somebody that's successful, I'd like to hear what their secrets were, what their ideas were. He said not many of them were good, and that didn't surprise me. What did surprise me a little was how many could have been good if the people who wrote them had tried just a little harder or had brushed up their skills a bit. And I think that the number one way to do that is to edit, to just try and hit it again, try it some more. The number one skill of being a good writer is to be a good reader. Okay. If you read what other people have written and you can't tell when it sucks, then you can't tell when your own writing sucks. Does that make sense? There's kind of this relates a lot to 3450 where we teach design. There's a thing sometimes that gets ingrained in us, and it basically goes, and some of you grew up with this, right, as kids, and it's basically just, I mean, I kind of did, if you can't say anything nice, then don't say anything at all, right? And kindness is a value, okay? Kindness toward others is a virtue. Generosity toward others, consideration of others' feelings, that is all a good thing, you know? But the problem with that is I think it carries the seeds if you really take it all the way to heart. If you're like, wow, this writing really, really sucks. Well, it was probably his first effort, and I just think I'm sorry, I'm being mocking, but you know what I mean? It's like, and there was one time in 3450 where I was talking about something, a product or something, Oh, the Bulwer Lytton Fiction Contest. Thank you, Dave, for dropping that on everybody. Yes. These are like deliberately bad. A contest for deliberately bad writing. Okay. But one of my students said, I'll just say that she was a little bit peeved. Okay. Because, there was a little of that tone. And the tone of face said, and her words were, well, what would you do differently? Well, how would you do it? And I said, in the moment, I said, I don't know. Okay, I really don't. But that's not the beginning. It's not true. It's not fair when you're trying to be a great designer or you're trying to be a great writer or a great artist. I don't care, what you're trying to be, but anything that has that creative, great software developer. It is not true that you have to know how you would do it better in order to be worthy to criticize what it actually is. Does that make sense? Like, maybe you've got someone mowing your lawn and it sucks, right? Your lawn looks bad and you don't know how to mow lawns, but you can still look and tell that lawn, that's not it. I don't know what a lawn is supposed to, how you do it, but I know that that's not the end result. I don't know how to paint, but I know when I see something that moves me. Maybe I'm not a good writer, but when I read, I can tell that there's some writing that's really clunky, right? That just clunks me up. And other writing that just kind of moves. Have you had that experience, right? Where you certain writing, most textbooks are clunk. Why? I have the theories, but I don't know for fact. But most textbooks have a certain innate clunkiness. And I think it's because of the writing style of most professors. But the bottom line is the way you get better at writing is by recognizing while reading when something sucks. The second step, then that transfers over to looking at your own writing in a way with fresh eyes that allow you to tell when it sucks. But then, because it's your writing, you get to change it. You get to refine it, right? So you get to look at it and just say, okay, step number one, I detect that it sucks. Step number two is I try to figure out why it sucks. The first impression is just, I don't know, it just seems sucky to me. I'm struggling with it, right? And you might say, well, it could just be me. True. That's true. But most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's really not. Sometimes, but not most of the time. And so step number one, to tell that it sucks. Step number two, to tell why it sucks. What is it about it, right? Well, this sentence just feels clunky. Or I read the sentence and I don't know what they're trying to say, right? The third step, if we were having exams in this class, these steps would be on the quiz. So pay attention. We have no feedback because we're not. This is the one downside to being remote, right? We don't have the tactile, the direct facial, feedback from everybody. So, okay, but the third step then is to figure out how would I fix it. So I'm not saying when I'm saying don't just run around being a critic of everything and clueless at building anything. What would you do better? I don't know yet. I will. I will. After number one, confirm to myself that it does suck. Number two, figure out what it is about it that causes it to suck. And then number three, figure out how I would do it better, how I would repair it, what I would do to fix it, to make it not suck. That process is called editing. And it turns out, in my experience, and I think it's fairly common, it is easier to edit than to write, and therefore get the writing out of the way quickly. If you're writing your very short story, get a kind of a sense in your head about how long 200 characters is, about how many words that is, about how long that is. And then when you're ready to do it, just write it, just dump it. And it's gonna, that's my impersonation of somebody typing. And clack, clack, clack. And then when you're done, then you've got the writing part out of the way. And what you've written is going to, guaranteed, nearly 100% of the time for nearly all people, including professional writers and experienced writers like myself. Okay, thank you. Thank you, CR. Right. You got the writing part out of the way. Now it's just editing. And how do you edit? What's the editing process? Step number one, determine that it sucks. Step number two, figure out why it sucks. Step number three, figure out how to make it not suck. Now you're just doing that with your own stuff, but with this very short stories, you have one other task, which is shrink it until it can fit in 140 characters. That's the extra burden, but that will cause your writing to get tighter. Okay, and I'm going to just go. Let me see. Back to this rewriting, redoing. Again, I call it editing. It's really just editing. Hemingway rewrote. Now, Hemingway. Daniel, was that a Hemingway response, or were you just open micing? Hey, but according to Hemingway, why did the chicken cross the road? To die alone in the rain. Feel free to use that among your literary friends. Hemingway, I don't really like Hemingway. Okay, I've read a bit. I went through a Hemingway phase, but he rewrote the last page, a book I haven't read, the last page of A Farewell to Arms, 39 times, asked why, and he just said he was trying to get the words right. I was just getting the words right. You rewrote the last page of this novel, famous novel, 39 times. Yeah, I was just getting the words right. Right? That's Hemingway. So we have this illusion. We have this illusion that the great authors like Hemingway, that somehow they just like, push the button and then clack, 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 like CR's little meme down there, little GIF. And by the way, some of you are going to say it's a GIF, not a GIF. And I say to you, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Ask any giraffe. They will tell you. They don't just push a button and then just the right prose just starts spitting out of them and then they're done. The best writers in history don't. It's not how it works. After a while, you do get better and better and better at first drafts being better. You know what I mean? That's a natural byproduct of just getting better at writing. But really, you have to, just get it out there. Another thing I used to do when I was writing my first book, co-authoring was a technical book on NetWare, but I remember sometimes I'd be like, you get like writer's block, and the writer's block is usually because you're trying to write and edit at the same time. And what you need to do is separate the two. Write by just dumping, then come back. This could be minutes later, or it could just be the next day. And now just edit. Because when you're editing, it's easier because you're starting with something. And you're basically saying, that sucks, I can make it better. That sucks, I can make it better. I can clean it up. And you do this iterative over and over and over again. Okay? Just like my old Twitter days when I might make 20 edits to a 120 character post before sending it. So I don't know why we're afraid to throw these things away. We're afraid to edit. We're afraid to delete. But the best thing you can do, remember this is one of Dr. K's first rule of writing, first rule of editing is delete your way to glory. Figure out what you can delete. Okay? In my experience, I've written, I think, 5 books. 3 of them published, 2 of them not. In most cases, especially if it's like a novel, the first chapter can usually be thrown away. Because all you're really doing is getting your wheels going. You're just building up some steam. That's really all you're doing. Within any given chapter, usually the first paragraph can be thrown away. Okay? And within any given paragraph, usually the first sentence can be thrown away, can be deleted. Because mostly what you're doing is just getting your juices going. Well, when you get and dump your writing. So when I was writing that first book, I remember coming upon this sort of methodology that I refer to as UG tags. I remember writing this sentence and I just thought it sounded horrible. I couldn't get it to feel right. So I'm like, So finally I just put in parens. This is in the days before, XML and tags and things. And I just put UG, just, UGH exclamation. And it was my note to say, I'd like to apologize to future Chuck for making you wade through this crap later on, right? And then the next day I was back editing. And then on that next day, I got to that sentence that I had put UG, an UG tag. And as I read the sentence on the next day, it was fine. It seemed fine. So I think I was just clogged up, or maybe there was just one word change and then it was fine. And mostly what I had to do is just delete the UG tag. Okay. So you got to be confident to just get the writing down, dump it, because I don't know why. Why is this, you guys? You're just trained somehow to think that you have to write it and then you're done, and then you're one and done. And it really shouldn't work that way. Okay. Great designers are not afraid to throw things away. Great writers are not afraid to delete whole chunks of stuff, delete whole chapters, delete whole sections, because you have confidence you can hit it again. You can generate it. You know what I mean? Okay, I wanted to, and then this is that I've kind of hit this. Justice Louis Brandeis said, "There's no great writing, only great rewriting," and I think that's not. It's one of those sort of euphemisms that are not strictly true. You know what I mean? There is great writing that just flows out beautifully. That it happens. It happens to everybody a little bit. But for the most part, it isn't that way. It's mostly great rewriting. And then this is that part where you've got to be able to perceive when it sucks. All right. Which I already talked about. Okay, let me talk about meat versus mayo. We got about, I don't know what we got, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And this is the part really about Twitter. And these, by the way, these lessons, if you will, I hope that there's no face to face, so there's no, you might be listening, you might be not listening. I hope you're listening and taking this to heart. It really will make you a better writer. And being a better writer is going to enhance your career, right? There are going to be situations where you need to send a text to, I don't know, a coworker or a boss. You're going to need to write a memo. That's still a thing. Or you need to write a white paper. Or you need to jump on and help with some tech support and communicate with users written. Or you're going to send an email, to your boss. Or you're going to pitch this product that you think your company ought to build. Well, if you can't write, how do you persuade? You know what I mean? How do you persuade somebody if they can't understand what in the freak you're saying? The better you get at being a writer, and there's this idea that I remember once actually hearing an engineer say, and this was a direct quote, "I loathe writing. That's why I became an engineer." I'm just going to call bullcrap on that. Okay, now I like that, CR, that if you can write, you win. I think that's right. It's a power to persuade. Okay. But this guy said, "I loathe writing. That's why I became an engineer." I think it's bullcrap. I really do. Now, I understand that he wasn't good at it, but also, interestingly, when the next round of layoffs came, he was one of the ones gone. He had some other issues, but that was, but that's not an attitude that says, "I want to be a communicator. I understand that it's hard. Some of you are really, really introverted, and that's okay. That's just not everybody's, as verbal as I am. Nobody's as verbal as I am. Very few people are as verbal as I am. And not everybody's gregarious and outgoing and plays in that verbal space the way I do. So I understand. I'm also saying, come on, guys, it's easy. You can do it. When in fact it's easier for me because it aligns with my personality type. You know what I mean? That's fair. And I mean, that's a fair statement, and it's an unfair advantage when it comes to writing and communicating. What are the weird blessings or whatever? You know what I mean? Just luck of the draw. And I know for some of you, it's like pulling teeth, and it's really, really, you know, like me trying to, run a mile on bad knees. You know what I mean? It's just that hard. So I get that. But what I'm also saying is, um, uh, so I was looking at Dave's comment. What I'm saying is that no matter what your skill level is, just kind of sitting here, it can get better, and it needs to get better. It's got to get better. And I really wish that we had, a couple rounds of intensive writing and to just almost kind of compel you into getting better. And for some of you, it's really going to just hurt like hell. And I get it. I really get it. Because there are things that I've had to do that hurt like hell, in terms of that were not my strengths. But you got to get better at it. You have to get better at it. And it's going to benefit your entire career. So it turns out that by starting you with the very short stories, you get, it's worth the same amount as the longer ones, except you can make it tight. You can get all the words right. The average score on the very short stories is 5. The average score on the longer blog posts, when I didn't do very short stories, was like 3.5. Okay, so just kind of trust that. I want to just say, and I'm gonna kind of like start in a little bit, and then let me. I'm just looking at the calendar real quick for um 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 um. Where is it? What we're supposed to be hitting on Thursday in class. Just pulling it up right now. Yeah, we're talking a little bit more about the orders of ignorance. Okay. But we're going to continue the writing. We'll kind of blend a little bit about the orders of ignorance and short posts. Okay. Um, we'll talk about, this video by John Cleese and Sir Ken Robinson. Um, but that's, yeah, and let me just do this. I'm just going to, since we're quarter after, I know we got started a little late with the technical difficulties, but I still want to stop on time. Some of you maybe have class in 15 minutes and need to get to it. But when we get back, we're going to be on the meat versus mayo in class on Thursday, where we'll do a little bit more of kind of a mixing of writing and a little bit more about that kind of creative process, which trying to lay a foundation so that as we get into the interesting topics, you're going to be in a better place to, communicate that. Okay, one last reminder for anybody. Let me just do a quick double check on Teams. I've already got everybody. If anybody rolled in after on Discord, that rolled in after we had everybody write their name in the attendance, then, please do that now so that I know that you were here, and then I can, roll through and make sure that the attendance is done correctly. Okay, so we can talk more on Thursday as well, but does this kind of work? Has this worked okay? Quick, yeah, thank you. Just kind of quick, and if there's any, yeah, and I do like the notion of intermingling, being face to face, you know, since I don't have green light to just take the class offline or online, you know what I mean, off campus. I don't have just kind of green light, but I think this falls kind of within our discretion and does lighten our load a little bit with travel and commute to campus and what have you. A little different. Okay, my friends, I will see you on Thursday. Take care.